1935. A coal company executive in Pittsburgh stood in front of a congressional subcommittee and said that home heating belonged to industry. Home heating belonged to industry. Home heating belonged to industry. 3 times he said it because he meant it. But out in the hollers of West Virginia, out on the Wen-cut farms of Nebraska, out in the tar paper shacks of Oklahoma, my grandfather's people were laughing at men like that. They were heating 4-room houses through 20 below winters on $50 a year. Sometimes less, sometimes nothing at all. I remember sitting in my grandmother's kitchen in southern Ohio when I was about 8 years old. The whole house was warm and there was no furnace running, just a small black stove in the corner, a kettle on top, and a strange brick wall behind it she called her heat catcher. I didn't understand it then, I understand it now, and I'm going to share all of it, because by number 4 on this list, I'm going to show you the 50-cent material that held heat for 14 hours after the fire went out. By number 2, I'm going to tell you about the federal program that actively discouraged this entire system in the 1950s, and which industry lobby paid for it. And by number 1, I'm going to give you the single philosophy that tied every poor family in America together during the Depression, and explain why losing it cost your family more than you can calculate. These methods were not abandoned because they stopped working. They were abandoned because someone made a fortune the moment your family forgot them. Your great-grandparents built a country that didn't need permission to stay warm. That country was erased in 2 generations. If you want it back, stay with me and hit subscribe, because what follows is the entire system. Number 10, the sawdust burner. Your grandfather, if he lived anywhere near a sawmill, never paid a dime for fuel. Sawmills in the 1930s gave away sawdust by the wagon load because they couldn't get rid of it fast enough. A packed barrel of dry sawdust burned for up to 14 hours of steady, low heat in a homemade burner, just a metal drum with a center pipe driven down through the middle, packed tight, then the pipe pulled out to leave a chimney shaft. You lit it from the top, and it burned downward like a candle. 1 barrel, 1 winter night. But after World War II, the particle board industry bought up sawmill waste by long-term contract, and free sawdust disappeared from American towns within a decade. You can still get it free today from any small cabinet shop or rural mill that doesn't have a contract. It still burns exactly the way it did in 1933. Number 9. The haybox cooker, which doubled as a heat saver. Your grandmother would bring a pot of beans to a hard boil for 10 minutes on the stove, then bury that pot inside a wooden crate packed with dry hay or crumpled newspaper, close the lid, and walk away. 8 hours later, the beans were done. The stove had only burned for 10 minutes. Cornell extension bulletins from the 1920s documented fuel savings of up to 80% on long-cooked foods using insulated boxes. But here's the heating secret most people missed. The same principle, scaled up, kept a small room warm overnight. A heated soapstone or brick wrapped in wool, placed in an insulated box under the bed, radiated heat until morning. The gas utility companies, formed into the American Gas Association in 1918, spent the next 40 years convincing Americans that slow cooking was inefficient. It wasn't. It was just free. Number 8. The Russian-style masonry stove, which immigrant families brought to the upper Midwest. Your great-grandparents in Minnesota or the Dakotas, if they came from the old country, built these by hand out of common brick and clay. You burn a hot, fast fire for 90 minutes in the morning. That's it. The brick mass absorbs the heat and releases it slowly for the next 24 hours. A properly built masonry heater uses about 1/3 the wood of a cast iron stove and gives off cleaner, more even warmth. The American Society of Heating and Ventilating Engineers documented these efficiencies as far back as the 1920s. But the cast iron stove industry, and later the oil furnace industry, never advertised masonry heaters because you couldn't sell replacement parts for a brick wall. You can still build one today in most rural counties without a special permit if you call it a fireplace. Number 7. The double window with the dead air space. Before storm windows were a product you bought at the hardware store, your grandparents tacked a second sheet of glass or even a sheet of waxed muslin pulled tight on a wooden frame over the inside of every window from October to April. That trapped dead air between two layers cut heat loss through windows by roughly 50%. Ohio State agricultural extension publications from the late 1930s pushed this on every farm family in the state. But the replacement window industry, which exploded after 1960 with vinyl frames, had no interest in teaching people that a $1 muslin frame did most of the job. The trick still works. Plastic film and double-sided tape from any hardware store will do exactly what the muslin did. About $15 for the whole house. Number 6. The root cellar as a heat regulator. Your grandparents didn't just store potatoes down there. A properly dug root cellar holds at 50 to 55 degrees year-round, and the floor of the house above it never freezes. Families in Vermont and New Hampshire built their houses directly over their cellars for exactly this reason. The Department of Agriculture's Farmers Bulletin number 1878, published in 1941, gave step-by-step plans. The same earth that kept the cabbage from freezing kept the kitchen floor warm. But after the Second War, the FHA, the Federal Housing Administration, refused mortgages on houses built over root cellars unless they were converted to full-poured concrete basements. That single rule killed the root cellar in American construction. You can still dig one in your backyard in most counties as long as it's under a certain square footage. Check your local ordinance. Most people don't even know it's legal. Number 5. The cookstove that heated the whole house. Your grandmother's kitchen range did not just cook food. It heated water in a side reservoir, dried the laundry, hung on a line above it, warmed the bricks the children carried to bed, and pushed enough heat through the open kitchen door to warm 2 more rooms. 1 stove, 6 jobs. A home comfort range from the 1920s, fed with about 1.5 cords of wood per winter, did the work of a modern furnace, water heater, dryer, and stove combined. But in 1978, new EPA stove regulations and insurance company pressure made it nearly impossible to install a cookstove as a primary heat source in a new build. The appliance industry quietly celebrated. 4 separate appliances now sell where one used to. You can still buy a refurbished cookstove for under $1,000, and in most rural areas, you can still install one legally. Number 4. The brick wall behind the stove. This is the 50-cent material I promised you. Common red clay bricks, stacked dry behind a wood stove with about 1 inch of air gap from the wall, absorb radiant heat all day and release it for up to 14 hours after the fire goes out. My grandmother's heat catcher. Just bricks. No mortar, no construction skill. A simple stack of 40 bricks behind a small stove will smooth out the cold spikes between fires and let you sleep through the night without getting up to feed wood. Penn State Extension documented thermal mass benefits like this in agricultural building guides through the 1940s. The insulation industry, particularly the fiberglass manufacturers who built their entire market after 1938, never mentioned thermal mass because you can't sell pink fluff if people use bricks they already have. 40 bricks from any salvage yard, under $20 total. It still works exactly the way it did in 1935. Now here's the part most people skip past because they think this only applies to people with land, a woodlot, and a 100-year-old farmhouse? It does not. Number 3. The closed room strategy for renters, apartment dwellers, and anyone in a modern home. Your great-grandparents in city tenements during the Depression did not heat the whole apartment. They picked one room, usually the kitchen, and sealed off every other doorway with a heavy quilt nailed to the frame. The family lived, ate, worked, and slept in that one warm room from December through March. A single small heat source in a sealed 12 by 12 room can hold 65 degrees on almost nothing. Cornell housing studies in the 1930s found tenement families heating one room on about a quarter of the fuel of families trying to heat the whole flat. You can do this tomorrow in any apartment in America. Heavy moving blankets, tension rods, and one corner of your living room. No permit, no landlord conversation, no construction. The natural gas utilities lobbied through the 1950s and 60s to standardize whole house central heating because zone heating cut their revenue in half. They won that fight, but you can opt out of it this week in any building, anywhere. Number 2, the federal program nobody talks about. In 1955, the Housing and Home Finance Agency, a predecessor to HUD, issued guidance discouraging mortgage approvals on homes that relied primarily on wood, coal, or what they called primitive heating methods. The American Petroleum Institute and the National Oil Fuel Institute had spent the previous 5 years lobbying for exactly that language. Within 15 years, an entire generation of American homebuyers was steered by the terms of their mortgages into oil and gas heat. Your parents probably didn't know it happened. Your grandparents watched it happen and shook their heads. The skill of heating a home without a utility bill did not vanish because it stopped working. It vanished because the federal mortgage system made it financially impossible to choose. But the methods still work, every single one of them. And outside of the FHA mortgage window, in cash-purchased homes, in rural counties, on inherited land, on small acreage, Americans are quietly bringing them back. Wood stove sales jumped during every fuel crisis since 1973. The knowledge is not dead. It was buried, and it is being dug up by families who got tired of paying. Which brings us to number 1. Number 1 is not a stove. It is not a brick. It is not a window covering or a haybox or a sawdust barrel. Number 1 is the philosophy that held every single one of these methods together, the one idea that the men in suits in 1935 could not stand, the one idea the utility companies have spent 90 years trying to make you forget. Your great-grandparents did not ask permission to keep their family warm. That is the whole thing. That is everything. They did not call a company. They did not sign a contract. They did not wait for a bill. They did not hope the grid stayed up. They looked at the wood in the yard, the bricks in the pile, the sawdust at the mill, the hay in the barn, the dirt under the house, and they put it all together with their own hands. Heat was something a family produced. It was not something a family purchased. Every item on this list maps back to one: freedom. The sawdust burner, freedom from the fuel bill. The haybox, freedom from wasted energy. The masonry stove, freedom from constant tending. The double window, freedom from leaking money out the glass. The root cellar, freedom from the frozen floor and the empty pantry. The cookstove, freedom from owning 4 appliances when one will do. The brick wall, freedom from getting up at 3 in the morning to feed the fire. The closed room, freedom for the apartment dweller and the renter. The freedom to opt out without moving. And the buried federal program, the proof that you were not crazy. The proof that something really was taken from your family. The proof that the bill you pay every month is not a law of nature. It is a habit. It is a habit that was sold to your parents and installed in your house and written into your mortgage and normalized over 3 generations. And habits can be broken. The generation that lived through the Depression knew something we forgot. They knew that the moment you depend on a system you cannot see, cannot fix, and cannot replace, you are no longer free. You are a customer, and a customer can always be charged more. I'm not telling you to tear out your furnace. I'm telling you that the knowledge your grandparents carried in their hands is still good. It still works. The physics didn't change. The bricks didn't forget how to hold heat. The sawdust didn't forget how to burn. The dead air between two panes of glass didn't forget how to insulate. Only we forgot. So here is what I want you to do. Pick one. Just one. If you live in an apartment, try the closed room strategy this weekend. Hang a heavy blanket across one doorway and feel the difference in one night. If you have a wood stove already, stack 40 bricks behind it next Saturday and tell me what your fire feels like by Monday morning. If you have a window that leaks cold, spend $15 on plastic film this week and seal it. One thing, that's all I'm asking. Because the moment you do one of these, something shifts in you. You stop being a customer. You start being the person your great-grandfather was. And tell me in the comment, I mean it, leave a comment, because this channel only grows when you talk back. Tell me if your grandparents did any of these. Tell me about the stove in the kitchen, the quilt over the doorway, the bricks behind the fire, the sawdust pile out back. Tell me what state they lived in and what winter looked like. Those comments are how we rebuild this knowledge together, because most of it isn't written in any book. It lives in the memories of people watching this video right now, and if you don't share it, it dies with you. Subscribe if you haven't, because there are people here, thousands of us, recovering exactly this kind of lost knowledge week by week. We are not preppers, and we are not survivalists. We are the grandchildren of the people who already knew how to live, and we are taking it back one skill at a time. Next week, I'm going to show you the Depression-era food preservation method that the FDA quietly discouraged in 1958, the one your great-grandmother used to keep meat through the summer without a refrigerator and without a single jar of canning equipment. There is a reason you've never heard of it. I'll tell you the reason, and I'll show you exactly how to do it in your own kitchen. Until then, pick one, try one, and remember what they knew. Your family never needed permission to take care of itself. They just needed to remember how.